All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on this webinar today. And there's a lot of different things that you could be doing. And the first thing that I'd like to say is that we did get a workbook created for this webinar. It's just a great way for you to be able to engage. So I'm going to have Kelsey put a link to that in the webinar chat here. And you can go ahead and download that if you haven't just yet. Yeah, we got the bit.ly link in there. So please go ahead, grab that. You can follow along with us today using that workbook. It's also a great resource to be able to use. There's a lot of great checklists in there and just tons of information. So you'll be able to take that away from the webinar today. But if you've got a keyboard handy or a pencil handy, I would encourage you to follow along and fill that out as we go. And really by the end of this, if you're able to do that, you'll have your plan kind of created for 2020. And that's what we're trying to achieve here is create a custom plan right now today. I know we're getting close to 2020 already. I mean, it's sneaking up on us and we got the holidays coming in pretty quick. But it's still, a good time as ever to look at what are we going to do in 2020? How can we be competitive and build a truly remarkable and rewarding practice in the new year? So with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is what that workbook looks like. I think there's like 10 pages in there. The one that you can use here is actually interactive in a digital sense. So it's got some text boxes in there so you could actually type your answers as we go through this. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to start off by setting some goals for 2020. We'll look at how many new patients do we need to actually hit your target. We'll look at the 3 components of profitable dental marketing. We'll look at how to optimize your website for conversion in 2020 and beyond. What do we actually need to do today in this, in this coming year? What are the latest trends for websites that we need to start implementing for you? The big picture of your online marketing. So where and how you should be marketing to maximize your new patient flow. We'll look at some of the latest trends to focus on in 2020. Develop that custom action plan based on where you are now, where you'd like to go, and what we need to do in order to bridge that gap. I appreciate your attention for this. Just, silence your cell phones, turn off your Facebook, have your workbook ready if you can, because really, if you want to get some excellent results in 2020, the next 60 to 90 minutes can absolutely change your life. If you've never really put a plan together before, this is going to be an excellent start for you for 2020. And just pay attention, and I promise it will be worth your while today. If you stay till the end, I also have some rewards, some really interesting things. We've got the workbook that you can take away from this, but I've got some other excellent resources as well that I'll be talking about as we go through the webinar, plus a really special offer. It's one of the biggest offers that we've ever had. And if you stay till the end, it's something that we can talk about and I'll be providing to everybody that's on the webinar today. More on that later. Stay till the end and you'll see what we have for you there. I want to just kick off this real briefly by talking about who I am. I do recognize some of the names in here. So some of you probably have heard me speak before, but there's a lot of new names as well. So my name is Ryan Menacho. I'm the head of marketing here at Firegang. I've done a ton of webinars just like this. I plan to do a lot more as well. I'll be doing probably one webinar a month through the rest of 2020 on lots of different topics. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on dental marketing initiatives to try to understand what works, what doesn't work, specifically for dentists. And I really only work with dentists. It's kind of the just exclusive niche that I work in. And I'm always trying to understand, what are new patients doing? Where are they looking for a dentist? How are they choosing to pick one dentist over another? And I've written a lot of different content on that as well. I work for Firegang, and Firegang is a dental specific marketing company. We've been around for about 10 years now. And this is the only space that Firegang works in. We help startups, single location practices, multi-location practices. I mean, just kind of everything in between to help them get more new patients in the door. Google certified partners, nationally recognized publishers. Our CEO, Adam Zilko, he's written 3 books on dental marketing, such as How to Get New Patients with the Power of the Web and Grow Your Practice Online, that have been bestsellers on Amazon. If you guys haven't had a chance to get a copy of any of the latest book, Grow Your Practice Online, feel free to just enter in the chat right now. I'd like the book or anything. Kelsey can go ahead and get that shipped out to you. If you've already got it, but if not, we'd be happy to do that. Just let us know. So the first question that I have for everybody before we get right into the goal setting here is, what has been the hardest part about marketing your dental practice? I really appreciate some engagement. There's a chat box on your Zoom, somewhere on your screen there. You should be able to see a little opening there for a chat box. I'd appreciate it if you could, open that up. Just type in really quick, just 1 or 2 responses. What has been the hardest part about marketing for your dental practice? What have you struggled with thus far? Or maybe even thinking back to just 2019, last year, or throughout this year, what has been, the most challenging for you? I'll give you guys a second. Just would love 1 or 2 notes on that. Looks like just getting new patients, finding marketing that actually works. So some general things there. Knowing how to parcel out the budget and divide between various media. Trying to understand what type of practice we are and targeting the right type of patient. Okay, yeah, all really good stuff. We'll talk about a lot of that today, especially when it comes to various media, finding a budget and targeting the right type of patient. Oh, so that's all great. Yeah, thanks for sharing there. So with that in mind, let's start setting some clear goals. For those of you who didn't enter in the chat, just be thinking in your mind, what's been challenging for you, because we're going to want to keep that in our headspace as we're setting some goals. When we're thinking about goal setting for 2020, what you're going to what you want to do is just have something that's concrete and in place that we can start to strive for. Because if we just set a goal, just get something down that we want to go after, we're already halfway there, right? Because no longer are we just kind of drifting, but we have a focus and a target in mind. What I often see is that without goals, you're kind of like a sailboat out sea, just drifting around. There's no momentum. You're just kind of flowing through the waves, and you end up feeling really, really stuck in place, don't really know which direction to take. So the best way to get on the right path is to set goals and take action. Put those goals visually in front of yourself, which will help create massive amounts of momentum for you and for your practice. Because clear goals are like wind in your sails. They're going to help propel you and push you forward towards whatever you'd like to reach. There was a really interesting Harvard study that was done, and it's old, but it's still very, very much applicable to today. So 84% of grads from Harvard had no specific goals at that time. And I mean, I think back to like when I graduated college, and I don't know if I had any really, really specific goals in mind. I think this is the case for a lot of people. But as we kind of break down the rest of the study, we saw that 13% of them had goals, but they didn't actually write them down. And 3% had clear written goals with a clear plan in place to accomplish those goals. And the study found that 13% of the class who had the goals, even though they weren't written down, they were still earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. I mean, this is huge, right? Just having that target in mind makes a big difference. But the 3% who had clear written goals, they were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. So this is just a fascinating thought here. If we can just get clear in our minds of where we want to go, get those goals written down and have them hitting us in the face every single day, there is a lot that can be achieved just with a simple framework like that. So what is going to be our goal setting framework for 2020 for your dental practice? First off, get these goals written down and get a plan in place. We're going to start off by having you write down some of these goals, and I'll work with you guys through these over the next 5 minutes. And then the second thing we're going to do today is develop that plan. So at minimum, we want to have a 1-year goal. So what is it going to look like at the end of 2020 for you? We're going to have some quarterly goals, and we're going to have some monthly goals. You must have a stopping point at the beginning of each new year and the end of each quarter to reflect. So we want to know, how did you do based on what you set for your goal? And what are you going to do moving forward? So there's always that check-in period to say, are we on the right track? Are we moving towards the right direction, or have we, veered off course and we need to readjust? But there always needs to be a point to check in, because it won't do us any good if we set these great goals for ourselves, but then we don't ever check in on them for the rest of the year and we just kind of forget about it, right? And I get it. We get busy and it happens, but we need to be very diligent about it. So in setting our goals for 2020, if you've got your workbook in front of you, I would encourage you to head to page 2 in there, and you can start typing in these goals specific for your practice. So the second page looks like this, and I'm going to start filling this in for a practice hypothetically that will kind of use as an example as we go through this. So step 1, how much revenue did the practice generate in 2019? If you don't know exactly, give just a pretty good ballpark for what your practice might have been. Let's say, for our example, that the practice generated $750,000 in revenue in 2019. And then the second thing we want to look at is, what is the revenue target for 2020? Let's set a goal. It can be kind of aggressive if you'd like it to be, but try to keep it relatively realistic. I don't think a realistic goal in our example here would be to say, I want to hit 3 million. Let's start something a little more, manageable, unless you're looking to, put tens and tens of thousands of dollars into paid ads. But let's use a realistic goal and say, we want to hit 1 million. If I can write here, we want to hit 1 million in revenue by the end of 2020. So step 3, how much additional revenue is it going to take to get there? If we subtract the 2, we know that we're going to need to add an additional 250,000 in additional revenue in order to get there. So let's break that down further. That's our annual goal, and that's great, but that's kind of hard to visualize on a day-to-day basis. So the next thing we'll look at is, how much is that going to be monthly? So let's take our additional revenue goal and let's divide that. Let's divide that by 12 to get our monthly goal. In this case, our monthly goal is going to be to get an additional $21,000 in revenue each month added to the practice. Great. Okay. So we've got some revenue targets. Now let's get this translated into the number of new patients that we're going to need. You want to think about, what is the value of a new patient to your practice? And this can range widely across all sorts of different types of practices. If you're a really high-end cosmetic practice, the average value of a new patient to you is going to be a lot higher. If you only do implants, then maybe it's $10,000 or maybe more. If you're doing a lot of lower end patients with a lot of different types of insurances that maybe, like a lot of Medicaid is kind of what I meant to say, then maybe this value of a patient is in, just a few $100s. But across the board, we've got some research from the ADA that says that the average value of a new patient is $1,400 if we just average kind of all practices across the board in the United States. So I'm just going to go with that because it's a good average. For most practices, they usually fall in this range. I've talked to hundreds of dental practices over 2019, and it's typically around the $1,400 mark. So if you're not really sure what your value of a new patient is to you, I'd encourage you to just use $1,400 for that. So if we now further break this down, we can say, okay, I need $21,000 monthly in additional revenue. The value of a new patient to me is $1,400. So if we divide those two numbers, then we get 15 new patients. So we did our breakdown here, and now we know that we need to get 15 more new patients every single month, and we'll be able to get from a $750,000 practice to a $1 million practice. When we break it down like that, that starts to make this goal of getting to $1 million seem very feasible. Okay, I feel that 15 new patients is an extremely realistic target to hit. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of following this. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. I'm happy to stop. Now, we got our 15 new patients a month, and we know that that's how many we need to get. But there's a step before that, right? Before somebody becomes a new patient, they have to do research on you, and they have to call your practice. So the next thing we want to look at, if we're trying to get 15 new patients a month, is how many calls is that going to require? How many calls, how many leads do I need? How many people do I need calling my practice to hit that number? So we want to ask the question here of what is your average conversion rate from caller to booked new patient appointments? Okay. Now, this again is going to vary widely across all different types of practices, depending upon how good the staff is. I mean, I've seen this as low as 25%. I've seen this as high as 80 or 90%. But just on average, kind of what is that conversion rate? Meaning out of, if you got 10 calls to your practice, how many of those calls would turn into an actual booked new patient, right? And then we can get a percentage on that. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to use 50% to keep things kind of simple. But think about what that is for you. And then now we can divide our new patient number by our conversion rate. And in this case, if we're at 50%, that means I need 30 calls per month in order to start hitting my target here. Okay. So let's see, we had one question come in. What's the range that this data is based on? Can we say that if we added 3 patients a month, we'll be making 4,200 more that month? Or is it more realistic saying this new patient will spend 1,400 on average the course of 1 year? So that's exactly it. It's this 1,400 that we're using here is to say that's the value of that patient within the first year. I'm trying to keep this just a touch simpler because there's lots of different factors here. If the practice, struggles with retention significantly, then it's going to be tough to keep that value at a reasonable level. But in most cases, with the typical retention that practices are experiencing, that 1,400 within that year is pretty consistent. And that's all pulled from the ADA. That I can send some information on that if you are interested further. Okay, so in this example, we've gotten to a point where we know we need 30 calls a month. Really, what we need is 30 new patient opportunities a month, not just any type of call. So, question: what's your goal for 2020? How many monthly new patients will you need to get there? If any of you guys don't mind sharing, just pop into the box what you are going to set for your target here in terms of just give me the new patient numbers. How many more new patients would you like to get at your practice in order to hit whatever you set as your goal for 2020? Today, we're all about, accountability and getting goals set down. So, you can write it down in front of you. That's great. At least do that. If you don't mind sharing, throw it into the Zoom webinar chat, and we'll all take a quick look at that. If anyone doesn't mind sharing. Let's see. All right, so we got, you want to increase by about 45. That's great. I've got someone said an additional 15 would be great. Yep, that'd be fantastic. Cool. If anyone else wants to share, feel free. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and continue on here. All right, let's talk about the 3 components to profitable dental marketing. This is kind of what we're going to dig into as far as developing a plan here. So there are 3 primary components to any marketing strategy that's going to run effectively and help us get to where we want to go. And those are differentiation, visibility, and conversion. Without any one of these components, the overall dental marketing strategy is going to fall flat. The reason being that if, for example, we are missing visibility, no one's going to be able to find you in the market, right? So it doesn't nothing else really matters. We have to be seen and noticed. That's just kind of like a first point, right? We have to show up. The second thing that we absolutely need is differentiation. We need to show patients that we are the desirable first choice in this marketplace for them. We need to show them why they should choose us versus everyone else. I'm going to talk a lot about differentiation today. It's a lot about crafting that message, showcasing, again, why they should choose you. If patients don't know why they should choose you, then they're not going to choose you, or they're only going to look at your price. And we all know that we don't want to get into a price war. The last one is conversion. We want to be very deliberate with all of our conversion strategies, meaning I want to know that if I put a certain amount of money into advertising, that I can realistically expect to get a certain amount of money out of that, or a certain amount of new patients out of that. I want it to be as it shows here, a certain level of predictability within the revenue that I can generate. If we're missing any one of these three things, every bit of that marketing strategy starts to fall apart. So to start crafting this strategy, where we're going to begin is with updating your marketing message. And the best place to start with that is to think about who is your ideal patient. There's a lot of ways to approach this. I think a pretty simple framework is to look at these four pieces here: demographics, pains and frustrations, fears and implications, and goals and desires. When we're looking at why my phone should be off. Sorry about that. So when we're looking at who is an ideal patient for you, we can start to kind of break down these pieces to better understand that. On page 4 of your workbook, you'll be able to see these boxes here, and you can start to fill these in as we go through this process between demographics, pain, frustrations, fears and implications, and goals and desires. So let's take a look at an example for a family dental practice. Let's look at demographics. And again, this is just an example with some ideas that may fit for your practice, that may not fit for your practice. But within that demographics box, you can start to kind of fill this information in. You may also find that you don't really know what to fill in there. That's just another sign to say, okay, we need to do some research. We need to think about who typically would be a good patient for us and start to break it down. So let's say at a family dental practice, maybe it's mom. It's typically female. It's moms. These are the kind of people that are doing the research online to find a new dentist. Maybe they just moved, or they're not happy with their dentist, and they're looking to find that new dentist for their family. Maybe they have kids. Maybe they don't have kids. Maybe it's just the wife and the husband, or maybe they're looking for a pediatric practice for their kids, but they're looking for general practice for her and her husband. But this is typically, we definitely see this. They might be married with 2 to 3 kids, $65K in annual household income, family oriented. They might live in the suburbs in an upper middle class neighborhood. And they absolutely want it to be easy. With so many things going on in people's lives, they're very busy, and they want finding a dentist to just be one of the easier things to do. Pains and frustrations. This person might think that getting themselves or their kids to the dentist is really inconvenient. It just doesn't work with work. There's always something going on. They don't know who to trust for quality dentistry. How can we make this easier for them? Another pain or frustration might be very immediate. Like, they're in pain right now. They need a dentist. They need somebody who can deal with it as an emergency. They might also be worried that the dental situation will get worse if they don't deal with it. When we're looking at fears and implications, they might be afraid of getting ripped off or overcharged, paying too much for something they could have gotten somewhere else from a different dentist. They're worried about having their teeth get messed up by low quality dentistry. They're worried it might hurt. They're worried that the bill might be more than they can afford. And then last, if we're looking at goals and desires, really, it's like, what does this person want to achieve at the end of the day? They want their teeth fixed. They want the issue behind them. They want to have great teeth. They want to take care of their family. And maybe on a deeper level, they want to improve confidence. They want to smile in pictures again. They want to eat normally again. Just have, happy and successful, healthy family. So these are all different types of things that might make up our ideal patient. And so when you're thinking about what makes your practice different, we want to begin to use this information to answer these 2 questions. Why should someone choose to book an appointment at your practice versus your competition? And second, what benefits do you offer that your target patient will resonate with? So start thinking about this. If you've got your workbook in front of you, you can start typing some things out. One of the things that I typically see from a lot of dentists who start this exercise is they'll begin to write items like, I've got great quality of care. I've got tons of experience. I roll out the red carpet for my patients when they come in. We do a great job. And that's all good and well. But when we're talking about true differentiators, these things typically fall short. The reason why is because any practice can say these things, and they do. I could look at I got a bunch of people on this webinar. I could look at 10 of your websites, and my research would suggest that 8 of them will say all the exact same thing with great quality of care, experience, red carpet. And that's not against any of you. It's just the statistics of what I typically see. So how can we actually put information on our website, or at least push it to the top, to showcase what makes us truly different than the competition? So here's some great ways to approach this. There are kind of 4 categories here. I would say the big ones are convenience, money, and time. Think about what can you do for a practice, what can you do for a patient that would make this more convenient for them, that would help them with the money problems or help them with their time. And the 4th one here is services, to just say that if you offer services that other practices in your area don't, well, inherently that's going to be different because people can only go to you for one particular type of service. So when we're looking at convenience, this might be open 7 days a week or evening appointments. If you're the only practice in your area that's open at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, you need to start marketing that heavily, because right there, you own that piece of your market and no one else is doing it. And what I see with a lot of practices is that on their location and hours page, it shows that they're open late on a Wednesday, but they don't run ads for it. It's not on their homepage, and patients often don't even know that that's the case. So let's start marketing that. We're talking about money. This might be new patient specials, financing options, services, maybe things like sedation. Whether it's free or not, just even sedation by itself can be a service that is a differentiator. And then time. Can I get an emergency appointment done today? Do you offer things like 1 to 2 day implants where I can, get it the same day I came in? Things like that really separate you from your competition. So now, as you go to answer these questions here, think about, why really should someone choose to book an appointment at your practice versus the competition? Okay. The last thing I'll say on this is that stuff like quality of care today is really kind of the entry into this space. If you don't have quality of care, you don't even get to compete, right? Like, that's kind of an expectation. So let's remove that from our website. Let's remove that from our marketing. Let's stop just kind of talking about these vanity terms that everybody talks about, because that's already an expectation. Let's start adding these true differentiators into the practice. Okay. So as you're filling out this page on page 6, I'd be curious for some of you, if you've got any ideas based on what I've said here, what makes your practice different, go ahead and enter that in the chat. I'd love to take a look, see what some of you guys are thinking about what makes you different and what kind of differentiators you might have within your practice. And just, what's your message going to be? What we see here is that messaging like this, we can put it on the website, we can put it on ads, and it really massively increases click-through rates. It's going to massively decrease the cost per click on things like Google advertising and Facebook advertising, because these patients are being given a true reason for why they should do business with you. So yeah, what's your message? Like I said, if anyone wants to share, I'd love to see anything about any differentiators or just what you think your message might be towards your ideal patient. Let's see. We're open late. Great. Short and sweet. What day? What day are you open late? I guess it doesn't matter. If you're open late one of the days, then that'd be something you could definitely market. Would anyone else like to share? Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and move on here. Currently working to stagger schedules and expand hours. Right on. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're open early and open late, that'd definitely be something to start marketing as a true differentiator, especially if there's others in the area that aren't doing it. It's a really simple one. Yeah, spa treatments can be great too. Certainly makes it convenient. Cool. All right, well, I don't think anyone else is sharing, so let's move on to the next section here. Make sure your website converts. This is often one of my more requested topics to go over. Just how do I know if my website's good? How can we improve our website? What are we saying on there? What's going on? What's the difference between a good website and a bad website? Why do some websites cost $20,000 and some cost $500? Well, let's dig into a lot of these questions now. And if you have any specific questions about your website, anybody on here, feel free to fire them away as we go through this. To kind of kick this off, the website is the hub. Okay, everything that you do is going to ultimately flow into your website. If you're marketing on Facebook, or you're marketing, any social channel, if you're marketing on Google, even if you get referrals, all of that, all those people are eventually going to end up on your website. We see that even if you get a referral from one friend to another, those people still want to do their own research. So the website ultimately becomes the hub, and we need to make sure that it's very, very strong. When we're looking at conversion, some of the things that we want to keep in mind are that, or the one thing we want to keep in mind is that messaging that we just talked about from before, those differentiators and those things that are going to separate us from all the other practices. We want to push that to the top of our website, and we want to market that very, very, very heavily. So let's dig into some of these factors. You'll see at the top here, certificates of excellence. If you have anything like an award, or you've got something that showcases like a certificate of excellence or best dentist award, let's get that to the top. You can remove all the text that says I'm an awesome dentist or great, tons of experience, and you can just replace it with an award, and the award is going to be significantly more powerful. This next thing we have here is what we call a differentiator bar. And this is something that we will add to all of our client websites. And this, by the way, this is, all the rest of these examples here are going to be websites that are from Firegang clients. These are ones that have been tested and convert at a very, very high rate. And I'll show some data of that just a little bit later. But this second piece here is the differentiator bar. So what you'll see are a lot of the same things that I was just talking about in our messaging section. Open 7 days a week, 1 to 2 day dental implants, in-house dentures, IV sedation, same-day emergency appointments, right? So we have all of these reasons for why you should come to this practice. And if I'm afraid of if it's going to hurt, then IV sedation, there's boom, right there. There's my answer. And it's right on the homepage. I don't have to search for it. I don't have to look for it. It's right here and easy to access for me. So I began to start speaking to my ideal patient with these differentiators. Next, we've got a nice photo of the staff here. Okay. So no stock photos. We want to really be authentic with our website. Show who we are as a practice. Far too many practices are using all these different types of stock photos and stock imagery and even stock content, things that sounds like it's coming from Wikipedia. As a patient, I don't really want to read up on what a dental implant is. I want to read up on what are you going to do and how do you approach dental implants or any other service for that matter. So let's be authentic, and photos are a big part of that. Let's leverage some video and other multimedia. On all of our pages, we can get video in there from the staff. It's always going to be better if you've got a video of the dentist explaining something versus, a video of just like some stock person explaining some service, because it's going to feel much more authentic to that patient. And they're going to feel like, if you guys on the webinar, if you're the dentist, they're going to feel like they already kind of know you a little bit. And they've already kind of met you a little bit. The whole rest of the process is going to be way easier. Once they call the practice, once they come in, they're going to be more accepting of treatment, more accepting and easier to work with because of that. We want to start leveraging social proof on the website. So again, right on the homepage, we've got our differentiator bar right here at the top. And then just below it, we've got a 5-star review. But it's not just a 5-star review. We showcase the 5 golden stars and we show where it came from. We get that Google icon in there, which is extremely important because this really elevates the quality of that review and the believability of that review. It's not just something that looks like, oh, these guys made it up or they just threw someone's text on there. It's like, oh, this is from Google. I trust Google. Therefore, I trust this review, and that makes me trust this practice a little bit more. We want to get all of the fundamentals right. Just things like making it easy to book an appointment. There should be no issues with me trying to get in here and just schedule something, send in a message. Maybe I don't want to necessarily call the practice right away, but I can click book an appointment, have a pop-up form show up right there, and it's just really easy for me to book. There should be clear call to action on each page. What we'll do with our websites is have all of the information on the right side for a particular service. And then on the right side of that page, we've got something that says, meet our dentist and schedule your visit now. So there's always a way for this patient to go and schedule that visit. It's not hard. It's very, very easy. And we're always directing them towards what we want, which is ultimately to call the practice or schedule an appointment. Always keep those two things in mind. We want to use special offers to drive action. I know there's some different schools of thought around special offers about maybe this will affect how my practice is perceived if I give things away for free, or I'm discounting my prices. I don't want to be the budget dentist, all this kind of stuff. Really, the best way to think about this is the special, even if it's $1 off special or it's a complimentary consultation, if that's going to cost you in terms of it's going to cost you money, let's say you discount a new patient exam by $50 or $100, just think about it as a marketing expense. If you've got 10 patients that came in, that's just and you discounted it by $50. Well, that's just $500 in marketing cost, right? We're not really giving anything away. We're just increasing our marketing budget to get 10 patients in the door. I mean, that's the whole point of having a marketing budget. And these kinds of specials will really, really drive action to your practice. So let's get these on the website. We want to have very specialized offers for your particular practice that are different from offers that are at all the other practices in your particular market. Again, we want to be different. We want to showcase something new and interesting to these patients. So for example, if I'm going to run a $299 new patient exam, I probably don't want to do that if there's another practice in the area that's running a $99 new patient exam. It might not be the best thing to do because that other practice, they might get all the business. Now, there's other ways to approach this. If we can get the rest of our differentiators in order and really showcase why it's worth it to pay 3 times as much to go and be a new patient at your practice versus the other practice, then this can work. Absolutely. Because it adds that kind of prestige. You're paying a premium price for a premium service, which is fantastic. Be really intuitive about how we're going to approach this and be really methodical about what our approach is with this. But in any case, let's get some special offers in here that can drive action and get people to take advantage now. The next thing we want to look at is making the website mobile friendly. Today, 40 to 50% of people are searching for a dentist on their smartphone. I mean, and it's continuing to go up. 2020, I can't remember the last article I read, but I believe if not already, then we're projected to be over 50% of all people searching for local businesses on their smartphones compared to desktop. So it's starting to eclipse desktop views, meaning the website has to be highly effective on a phone, and it's actually getting to a point where it's more important for it to be effective on a phone than on a desktop computer. So we're transitioning from a world of mobile optimization actually to a world of mobile first, meaning the website needs to be built so that the website needs to be built so that it's mobile first and it works great there, and then desktop is kind of the second thing in mind. You make a good point though. Look at your own analytics, make sure your patient experience is in line with what your visitors are using, and I agree with that. If you're in a particular market where no one's using a phone, or fewer people are using a phone, then sure, let's take a look at that. But for the vast majority of markets in the United States, this is definitely the trend that we're seeing more and more about smartphones. When you start using things like ClicktoCall for mobile, again, it's just making it as easy as possible. This is just a quick screenshot from one of our practices and what it looks like on their mobile phone for one part of their website. You can book that appointment. It's really easy to do. And just, the call comes up, super simple. I'd encourage you to leverage online booking as well, where especially if you don't have a call forwarding system for after hours, we don't want to be missing calls. We don't want it to be a situation where 5 people call you that are great new patient opportunities when your practice is closed and you have no way of answering those calls. One thing that you could do is leverage online booking, where instead of these people having to call you, if they want to book an appointment at 2 a.m., they can go to your website, they can click book appointment, and they can go in here, view openings, and just book it right onto the schedule. This can be a great way to capture more and more new patients, if that's something that you're looking to do. So a quick example with some great analytics using all of these strategies here is Anchorage Midtown. This was the first website that I showed in these long list of examples. This was their old website here. Okay, so what you'll notice with this, tons of white space. I mean, outside of having the staff photo here, this website was pretty weak. And I know it's just like the top of the homepage, but the rest of this website was very, very similar. So when you come to this homepage, I mean, what do you learn about this practice? Nothing. You learn that it's a dentistry, but you really don't learn much else. Okay. So we made massive modifications to this. We got the message right. We identified what makes this practice different. We identified how we can separate them from all of their competitors, and we built their new website. And this is that example that we looked at before, right? We've got this differentiators bar in here. We've got these certificates of excellence. We've got the great staff photo here with a 5-star review. We've got special offers on the homepage. We put all these things together, made it very, very mobile friendly. And what we saw was a massive lift in conversion rate. So with the old website, over a 3-month period, we saw that it was converting at about 2%. Okay. And that meant out of the total number of visitors to the website, what percentage of them turned into legitimate new patient opportunities. Okay. And it was hovering around 2%, which is actually was a little lower than that, which is kind of a average across the industry that we see in a lot of cases. We raised this up with all these different changes, and this averaged about, it was actually a little higher than that. It was about 5.5% conversion rate. So if you're going to go from a 2% conversion rate to a 5.5% conversion rate on the website, what that means is you're getting almost 3 times as many new patient opportunities from your website. Okay. Which is amazing, right? I mean, we're getting significantly more opportunities without increasing ad spend, without getting more traffic to the website, just by making these improvements and optimizing the site for conversion. We took a lot less interest in how it looked. We took a lot less interest in design and, being creative and all of that. And we just focused on optimization. He said, how do we calculate those? I mean, it's really, really simple. We just looked at what was the total traffic to the website. And then we looked at how many new patient opportunities were generated from the website. Now, to figure out the new patient opportunities, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but this is all about call tracking. So tracking all the calls that come in from the website, so we can identify, was it an opportunity? Was it not an opportunity? But the way that you do that is you actually have to listen to the calls that are coming into the practice. It's not enough to just track, like, did it come from Google or did it come from Facebook? Really, we need to listen to the calls so that we can understand, okay, yes, it came from Google and it went through the website, and also it was an opportunity for the practice. Oh, and also it was booked into a new patient appointment. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but call tracking is a huge thing that we do at Firegang. So let's take a look at the bottom line on this and how a conversion optimized website can have an impact on the revenue. And I just want to create this example to really just illustrate what we're trying to achieve here by leveling up all these different pieces of the overall marketing process. So here's just an example, kind of just pulled this 500 number out just for the sake of example. Let's take 2% of website visitors, saying that's what we're going to use as our conversion rate. This means if we had 500 people to the website, that you'd end up with about 10 calls to the practice, right? At 2% conversion rate. Let's say that you have a conversion rate on your phones of 50%. Okay. And that goes in line with the example we had before. when we were first looking at our kind of breakdown of new patient goals. So if we can convert 50% of our calls on the phone into new patient appointments booked on the calendar, that means we're going to get 5 scheduled new patients each month from this. If we have a $1,400 new patient value, that means we're going to generate $7,000 in monthly revenue as a result of this marketing program. Okay. So what if we increase this from 2% now to 6%? All of a sudden, we go from 10 calls out of that, from those 500 website visitors, to 30 calls. We go from 5 scheduled new patient appointments now to 15 scheduled new patient appointments, which is going to drive us $21,000 in monthly revenue by upgrading our website, by adding these conversion pieces in place. And that's going to give us $168,000 in additional annual revenue to the practice by elevating our website. Okay. So in our original example, we were looking at how can we get an additional $250,000 to the practice in additional annual revenue, right? We were trying to go from $750K to $1 million. We just updated the website and we're more than halfway there. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about how can we close that loop and get ourselves all the way to hitting that goal. Within your workbook on page 7, there's a website conversion checklist. I would encourage all of you to look through your own website and start checking off these boxes to see how strong is your website. And this is just a really, really easy way to do that. Like I said, it's just on page 7. You can also do this mobile-friendly website test. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple, but it'll give you a generally good idea if your website is set for mobile, or if you need to make any changes or adjustments to that. So yeah, go through this, do a quick check, and you also combine this with the questions that you answered before in the workbook about your message and about your differentiators and what separates you from the competition. The second question on here, I don't know if this is too small to see, but it just says, do you have differentiators on the homepage? So, as you're doing this, take a look and see, do you have those there, or do we need to get some of those added? And if you thought you had differentiators there, see if they align with some of the things that we listed before. All right. So when it comes to setting your website up for conversion, these are just a lot of the checklist items that we kind of went through before, but we want to speak to that target new patient. We want to use authentic images. We want to leverage video and multimedia elements. We want to leverage social proof. We want to get our basics in order, get our foundation in place, make it easy to book. We want to ensure that we have clear calls to action on each page, use special offers and coupons, and make sure that our website is mobile optimized, and give patients the option to book online. Okay? So we've got, in this particular way, we've got 9 different things that we can start doing to set our website up for conversion. What 3 conversion elements do you want to implement on your website? We don't need to get in here and start, changing every single one all at the same time. Even if you can make just a few adjustments to your site, you can start to see some massive improvements. So I'd ask for you guys, a couple of you have been really great with giving me some info in the chat. I'd love to hear from a few of you. Just right now, out of these 9 things, what is maybe 1, 2, or 3 items that in 2020 you want to make an adjustment to your website with? What 3 things are you going to commit to doing with your website to improve it and improve the conversion rate of your site? Let me see some engagement from a few of you who would like to share. What are some things that you'd like to do here? Give you guys just a minute. All right, create some special offers. Sounds good. Anyone else? Anyone else gonna make any commitments to this? And if you don't feel like sharing, that's fine. At least write it down in your workbook and commit to it there. All right, well, one person said they want to use special offers. Thanks for sharing. Special offers are super, super powerful. So let's go ahead and continue on. All right. Up next, the biggest marketing issue facing dentists today. Oh, I got one more question here. With booking online, have you gotten pushback from practice about scheduling? It happens. I mean, not everybody wants to do booking online. For some practices, it just doesn't work for them. They don't want to let practice, or they don't want to let patients schedule themselves. So that's fine. I mean, we don't have to do it that way. I mean, the simplest, there's two simple alternatives. One is to set up call forwarding. So if someone calls your practice when you're not around, the call just gets forwarded to somebody's cell phone and it can rotate. The second option is to just have it be a contact form on the website. So people can enter their information and basically just leave a message. The only downside to that, I mean, having a contact form is great. Like, don't get me wrong. The only downside to it is it gives your competition an opportunity to, take advantage of that. Cause it's like, maybe that patient sends in 4 different contact messages, and the first practice that responds to them is the practice they go with. Like, that's just a simple example, right? Where that could happen. And we do see some of that. So it's just what the practice is comfortable with. And if you're comfortable with doing that, then go for it. Biggest marketing issue that's facing dentists right now is unconverted leads. So if you've got leads coming in, you got a ton of leads coming in, you're spending all these dollars on marketing, how can we make sure that they're converted? One of the biggest things that I hear is, I'm spending all this money on marketing, I'm running all these ads on Google, but I'm just not getting patients. I'm not seeing patients. Okay. So the biggest issue with this is conversion. If you are truly spending a ton of money on marketing, you're spending a ton of money on ads, you got SEO running, you got all these things going, you got mailers out, whatever you're doing, then you have a conversion problem. People maybe are seeing your ads, people maybe are seeing your website, but they're choosing not to take action. Maybe people are calling you, but again, they're choosing not to book. Well, there was a fascinating study that came out this year. So that 77% of new patient calls are unconverted, for specific in the dental industry. I couldn't believe that it was that high. So we've got 77% of them unconverted. This means a combination of things. This is between just the call not getting answered at all. This is the staff being unable to convert that call. And 77% is huge. So just to kind of use a simple rounding here, I mean, that means that 1 in 4 of your new patient opportunities are just missed, right? It's a situation where there's no marketing in the world that can give you a positive ROI if you can't get the conversion fixed, because missing 3 opportunities out of 4, you're just not going to get the ROI. You're just not going to get the return. There's not enough revenue there. There's too much revenue being left on the table in a situation like this. So we have to get it fixed. This is things like not answering the calls, right? This is going to make a huge issue there. But one of the bigger things that I see is front office trying to be nice instead of trying to book an appointment. Okay. This is the front office staff just basically being there to answer questions and let the person on the other end, let that potential new patient kind of drive the conversation. We want to start changing our mindset and changing the mindset of our people at the front desk to be all about, how do I book an appointment with this person? Okay. And that might seem salesy or, I don't know, like harsh, but it's true. We're in a business and we're there to book patients. So let's start focusing on that. Another really big thing that I see is saying no to questions about insurance. This is so prevalent, especially with higher value cases. Things like, implants or something like that, where, it's even true. It's true for services all across the board, but we'll hear all the time, because Firegang will audit calls for our clients. And last year, we audited over 65,000 calls for our clients. And so we hear a lot of really interesting things. And what comes up far too often is patients will call in, they'll say, hey, do you take insurance X? And the staff will say, no, sorry, we don't take that insurance, bye. And that's the end of the conversation. Well, it might not be that that patient doesn't want to come in for treatment from you. It's just another question that they're going to ask. A lot of patients are going to look for people who, for practices that take their insurance, but it's not necessarily the case. They might find your practice so appealing based on your differentiators, based on your message, based on what they found online about you, based on your reviews, that they want to come in no matter what. It happens. It absolutely happens all the time. But if your staff just says no, sorry, bye, then you're going to be missing opportunities. And we see this. This is very, very prevalent. It's something we work with our practices to fix. Get them, the training that they need. Giving out costs instead of insisting on an exam that's necessary to determine accurate pricing. Typically don't want to just give the specific price right on the phone, but let's get people in the door for a consultation first. And also another issue is potential new patients don't feel like the front office is understanding or on their side. We want these patients to feel welcome, especially if you're promoting on your website that you provide a very comfortable experience. They want to hear that coming through from that front office person immediately when the phone is answered. Okay. So these are a lot of things that we want to start improving upon with staff training. I've brought up some of these as well with how we can handle some of these problems, but forwarding after hours calls is a really, really big one. So we can stop missing these opportunities. Just training on how to handle price shoppers or answer the insurance questions, confirm messaging and special offers, and make the patient feel like you understand. So this piece right here about confirming messaging and special offers, this is also a really big thing that I see a lot of practices missing. So if you have a special offer that you're running, let's say it's about a free consultation for some service, or it's like a $299 new patient special, and that's all over your website. The staff needs to be knowledgeable about it. The staff needs to understand exactly why or exactly what that offer is about. So when that person's calling in to ask about it, there's not a disconnect between the messaging on your marketing and the messaging that your staff is putting out. If we can keep that consistent across the board, we can absolutely move that patient through this process. If that messaging is not consistent and the staff doesn't understand that special offer, that's going to lose the patient, and we're going to lose them on the phones, and that's going to be another missed opportunity. Some things that we can do in terms of training, we want to always build rapport with that patient on the phone. Always ask for their name, always ask for a callback number. Make sure that you stay in control of the conversation. As the receptionist, you need to make sure that you're the one asking the questions and always asking for an appointment. So like I said, last year we listened to over 65,000 calls, and most of the time the missed opportunities came from lack of rapport. So that's something that's really easy to fix. Thank you for attending the webinar today. I will be sending out this guide on how to turn your dental practice's phone calls into appointments. It's got a lot of really great information in it, some excellent scripts. It's got some additional information in there about rapport building and just lots of great data in there. So I'd encourage everyone to check it out after the webinar. But if you need any more help with the staff, we can always, I'll talk a little bit later about how we can book a call together, and I can talk to you more about different ways that we can train the staff. But this is a big thing that we do at Firegang with our clients, because like I said before, we can run all the marketing that we want in the world, but if we don't have a staff that's able to convert, then that marketing is going to be just wasted dollars, and we're not going to see the ROI there. So we're always looking to train the front staff. Now let's look at integration and optimization. We've talked about all these different pieces, right? Yes. So I got a question from Pam. Can you please talk about KPIs? Yes, I'm absolutely going to talk about KPIs. That's where I'm going next. So integration and optimization. We've talked about all these individual different pieces. Okay. So we've got the visibility, we've got like the ads, the SEO, we talked about the website and optimizing that. We talked about phones and optimizing that. So as we start to bring all these pieces together, that's where we can really get some fantastic integration and optimize this marketing program as a whole. Before optimization, we were talking about the website before, right? The 2% convert on the website to 6% convert on the website. Let's start adding in a couple more pieces to this. So let's say that instead of 500 website visitors per month, We increased that by getting more ads up, having a better SEO strategy, and now we're at 650 website visitors a month. Let's say we're able to implement all of what we learned today about the website, and we get from 2% website visitors to 6% website visitor conversion. Let's say we improve our staff quite a bit using these strategies, and we go from a 50% conversion rate to a 70% conversion rate. If we improve at each of these 3 stages, then all of a sudden we've gone from 10 calls a month now to 39 calls per month. We've gone from 5 booked appointments to 27 booked appointments. And that's going to take us from $7,000 in monthly revenue to $37,800 in monthly revenue. And this is massive, right? So we don't have to do necessarily one thing like 1,000,000% better, but if we get each of these components a little bit better and we keep them integrated and we do them all right, we can absolutely drive the revenue that we need. And in this particular case, I mean, we're going to way overshoot that goal that we talked about before. Making these adjustments here with these increases across the board, that's an increase in additional revenue of almost $370,000 to the practice. Okay. So let's talk about how we can know and track our KPIs. What do we need to look at in order to make sure that we're hitting these conversion rates, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, and also so we even know what our numbers are, right? We can't necessarily increase our conversion rate on our website if we don't even know how to check our conversion rate, right? So let's take a look at that. The best thing we want to do is get some call tracking in place. And I'm going to talk about that here just on the next slide. We want to track all the calls that are coming into practice. We need to know where they came from, right? Where did those calls come from? Also, where did the people come from our website, right? When they're on our website, how many are staying versus how many are leaving? How many people are booking appointments from our website, right? We need to get a simple dashboard set in place to track and measure these KPIs. So it's just easy. They're all right in front of us. We don't have to go to like 10 different places to look for all these different KPIs. And the ones that we want to pay attention to the most are what is our cost per lead or, cost per call, and what is our cost per new patient. So if we can get our cost per lead and our cost per new patient figured out, then the rest of this becomes a heck of a lot easier. Because think about it this way. There's hundreds of different metrics that you can look at. You can look at SEO rankings, you can look at cost per clicks, you can look at all this different stuff. But at the end of the day, what we want is new patients, okay? So if you're working with a company or you're doing all this by yourself and you're on the first page of Google, but you're not getting any new patients in the door, then what good is it like to be on the first page of Google, right? There's something broken in this process. So we really need to identify where is that break. And when we can understand what our cost per new patient is and what our cost per lead is, then we can really very quickly identify if there's an issue here or there's not an issue here. And then we can go to call tracking to better understand where is the break in this process. So we want to have a dashboard set up that looks something like this. This is what all of our clients have at Firegang to keep it really simple for them to be able to identify what's working, what's not working. On their performance dashboard, we see things like new patient growth numbers, cost per lead, cost per new patient, and approximate ROI for the practice. We also have this call tracking dashboard here. And you can see on the left side here, we're able to showcase where all of these calls came from, whether it was a PPC campaign or a Facebook campaign, et cetera. But on the right side here, we have all these play buttons. So what we'll do at Firegang is we'll actually listen to every single call that comes into this practice from all these different campaigns to audit that call. What happened on it? Was it a new patient opportunity? Was it a booked patient appointment? So what is our call conversion rate? We can also understand what were they asking about? How did that call go? Where did they come from? All this different information, right? Because we're listening to the calls. So then we can take notes on it to identify, what's happening. Through this call tracking, through this call auditing, we can now start to get a really good idea of where the break in the process is. However, we can also look even deeper into this, right? We can implement things like Google Analytics. So we can take a look at our website to identify how many website visitors we're getting. And then it's just a simple comparison. We take a look at how, by doing this call tracking here, we can see how many new patient opportunities we had, and we can compare that to how much web traffic we had. And get a conversion rate for how many people visit the website and what percentage of them actually called us. If that number's really, really low, then we know we have an issue on the website, right? It's as simple as that. If that number is really, really high, then our website's probably fine. And now we can look to some other areas to figure out where the break in this process is. And we can continue down this path to identify, is it the ads? Is it the SEO? Is it the website? Is it the phones? Right? Is it the staff? Until we identify what the true issue is, and then we can go in and fix it. And that's a big part of what we do at Firegang. So with that in mind, let's build our 2020 plan. So far today, we've set clear goals and clear targets for 2020. We've created clarity around the 3 components of profitable dental marketing, between differentiation, between visibility, between conversion. We've made sure our website is optimized to convert. We've learned how to implement an integrated approach and why that's important. And we've looked at setting up a simple tracking method for tracking all the calls coming into the practice. Now, we got some key trends for 2020 that I want to share with everybody today. As we go into the new year, what are some new things that we should start paying attention to? Some things that have changed significantly as compared to the last couple of years of dental marketing that we all need to be aware of. The first thing is that SEO, SEO is constantly changing, but there's something new that we're looking at that is really, really exciting and really interesting. So it's this idea of, oops, that's my wrong tool here. It's this idea of VO versus SEO. Okay. SEO, it's kind of been used so much that it's almost like what even is SEO at this point? What even is search engine optimization? Google has gotten so hyper local that there was a time when you could rank really, really well for a Google search like dentist near me all across your city. But today it's like you're on one block and maybe your practice is showing up, and then you walk down another block and your practice is not showing up. And it seems like no matter where you search, there's always a different result. So what I'm concerned more with in 2020 is something called visibility optimization, that we're just shortening to say VO, okay? What this means is I want to optimize line all across the board. It's not enough now to just focus on one specific area because it changes so much. It's this idea to say, if we're not showing up on the Google search results organically, or we're not showing up the Google Maps, our SEO doesn't place us there that day for whatever reason, at least we have a Google ad in place, right? So we're showing up somewhere on Google, no matter what that search is, no matter where that person is located, reasonably within your local market, or it's on Facebook, which takes us to the next point here of visibility diversification. We need to start diversifying our visibility online like you would diversify a stock portfolio. You would never put 100% of your money into a single business, right? Just that's not the going advice. That's never been the advice from any financial advisor or any sane person who's investing their money. The same is true when we're looking at dental marketing online. Let's get some of our visibility and some of our dollars put into Google Ads, put some of our investment into Google Maps, into Google Organic, into Instagram, into Facebook ads. And let's diversify that portfolio so that no matter what the case is, we're always showing up somewhere. This is absolutely the way to go in 2020. It's really interesting. It's something that we're doing for our clients. And it's going to be a great way to beat future algorithms, because if you're 100% invested in Google Organic right now and Google makes a change to its algorithm, what happens if you fall off the front page? Well, until you figure it out, you're not coming back to the front page and no one's going to be able to find you, and you might drop in new patients. So let's not invest 100% of our effort into one single area. Let's start diversifying that. There's also some really interesting things that we're doing with advanced implant funnel marketing. This idea of attracting just dental implant patients using whole giant marketing funnels with automated follow-up sequences. A lot of really, really cool stuff on that. If you guys are looking to just attract dental implant patients, that's all you want, just shoot me a message and I can talk to you specifically more about that. the last thing I had on here is corporate dentistry. I mean, corporate dentistry is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to rise, and we've seen that over the last few years. We've got to get especially these diversification and messaging strategies in place if we want to continue to compete with them, because corporate dentistry, they're going to always, I wouldn't say always, but a lot of markets we're seeing that they're just competing on price and they're flooding the market with special offers, and it's crushing a lot of private practices. So if we don't want to compete on price, we need to compete on how we're different. And what we talked about today is a couple fantastic ways to do that. All right. So building your custom plan in the workbook, there's this ultimate dental marketing checklist on page 9. I would recommend going through, checking off the boxes, filling this out. A couple action items for you that you'll see on workbook page 10. What are the top 3 marketing initiatives that you want to implement to hit your 2020 goal? Okay. We've covered a lot of different stuff today. For anyone who would like to engage with me one last time, share one. I'm sure you guys have all thought of some different stuff today. Maybe there's a light bulb moment or two, things that you'd like to change or adjust. Share something in the comment or in the chat here if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to see maybe one thing that you thought was interesting that you'd like to implement, or an initiative that you'd like to put in place going into the new year. I'll just give it a minute before I move on. I've realized my website could be a lot better. Well, that's a good start. Just get real specific about what you want to do with your website. In terms of differentiators, just using the stuff that we have today. You've got the workbook, so come up with the messaging, and we can look at reworking that website. All right. So again, just some takeaways. What did you learn? What did you notice? What would you like to share? You noticed that your website could be great. Thanks for sharing. If anyone else would like to share, I'd appreciate it. Just one last time, at least if you're not going to share, get it down in the workbook, get it written. That's the whole point of today. So what have we covered today? We've set some goals for 2020. We've looked at the 3 components of dental marketing. Website for conversion in 2020. Those are the big picture of all online marketing channels that you should be tapping into to maximize your lead flow online. We've looked at the latest trends that you must be aware of in 2020 and helped you develop a custom action plan based on where you are now and where you'd like to go. So for anyone there that would like some help with doing any of this, even going through your workbook or would like help with getting all this implemented, that is something that we can help you do. You can always go to firegang.com/assessment where you can book a call directly with me. It's typically about 45 minutes. We'll go through your practice. We'll discuss where some areas of opportunity exist for you. And if you'd like, we can put a plan in place to show you how we would help you do this and help do it for you. You can also just type in "Let's Talk" in the chat box. If you do that, I'll have Kelsey just get in touch with you real quick, and we can set up a call and kind of go from there. Lastly, we're gonna go ahead and send you the phones guide for how to turn your dental practices phone calls into appointments. Everybody on the webinar today is going to grab that. And then we'll also send you our website guide, which just kind of expands on a lot of what we talked about today. We talked about differentiators and messaging and other things that you can do to your website. So those will be in your inbox. Again, feel free to head over to firegang.com/assessment or anyone else can type "Let's Talk" in the chat box, and I'd be happy to get you set up. We can schedule a meeting. As part of the assessment, we'll just go through, your current marketing budget, your website. We'll look at your marketing funnel and just kind of everything that you're doing online, and then go from there and, help you in any way that we can. Thanks everybody for coming on today. Hopefully we see you next time. We'll probably do another webinar about mid-January. And yeah, hope you got some value out of this. Enjoy the workbook, and you'll hear from me soon.